What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Trojan Dash, the 4-8 worst record since 1991. But none of it matters because Amon-Ra St. Brown scored a game-winning touchdown for the Lions episode of Trojan Dash. I'm Nathan Ackerman. Anthony, how are you doing?
I feel relaxed. I feel calm. No more worries. Well, at least for now. But but I'm feeling good. What about you?
I'm glad it's over. I think a lot of people are glad that it's over. Ready to ring in the start of the Lincoln Riley era. Why don't we do what we should feel obligated to do because it was the last game? Let's talk about this game. Actually, we're going to be presenting a lot of new info to a lot of people right now because I don't think people know what happened in this game because nobody watched this game. Nobody was at this game. So should we do like a play-by-play, like just break down what happened, or should we actually analyze it?
I think we should read our recaps. I think that's the best bet.
That was a great job plugging our work. Anthony, by the way, I got to shout out the Daily Trojan Sports Twitter account,
Oh,
which
whoa,
you run, of
whoa.
course. By the way, to anyone out there who thinks that this little beef between me and Anthony is real, you heard it on this show right here. It's not real. It was all an act. I am bitter that I was not invited to the Blood Bowl.
Oh man, come
Maybe a little
on. We
bit
talked about this.
that they won even without me. Yeah, we talked about this, but Anthony was my number one advocate the whole time, so we're cool. Anyway, the DT Sports Twitter last night tweeted out, like many, we are not at the USC versus Cal game, and I burst out laughing because it was funny and also very accurate. So anyway, they played the game. It did not matter at all, but one of the teams won, and it was not USC. In fact, it was Cal. Anthony, what were your impressions from that? Well, not so fateful final game of the season.
I mean, I was pretty shocked. I know we talked about it. I think it might have been after the Arizona State, or no, before the Arizona State game. We kind of talked, what are the chances of them winning a bowl game, and what were some games that we thought they would win. I thought they could win for sure, win Cal, and then UCLA BYU would be a toss-up, and I thought Arizona State would be tough. They managed to lose all four. I didn't expect that one. So, my impressions were basically the same things that we've been talking about this whole season. The red zone efficiency was really bad. I think they had more turnovers than touchdowns when appearing in the red zone at one point. So they just really couldn't do anything there. And then obviously Jackson Dart had, he was knocked out, I think in the third quarter, and then Miller Moss comes in, and a couple plays later, it's a botch snap on fourth down. They fumble and then turnover on downs. And then the next possession, going to the red zone, sack fumble. So it was just a complete mess. But, we've been talking about it the whole year, really. The red zone problems, it'll be interesting to see how it is next season. I know that, usually most of the games that USC lost was because of those problems. They weren't able to convert. They weren't able to even get points. And Parker Lewis missed 2 field goals, which always hurts. I think he missed 2 and then got benched. And then immediately I thought of your feature on him, Nathan. And I was like, man, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But yeah, I mean, it was the red zone. I think the penalties, there were some penalties, but it wasn't back-breaking, just game-changing penalties. It was just the usual little false start or offside or a holding or something. So really, it was the red zone. Outside of that, I mean, they didn't necessarily play a poor game offensively. I think they had over 400 total yards, but with just 14 points. So I think just poor efficiency. What they've mentioned, what they've talked about the whole season about fixing, and still haven't fixed.
I want to address what you just said about Parker Lewis because I took kind of an issue with
that.
For anybody who doesn't know, no, it is what I think, and it is what you said. For anybody who doesn't know, week 3, I wrote a story about Jackson Dart. A few days later, we found out he tore his meniscus. Week 5, I wrote a story about Parker Lewis. Next week, I was like, he's 9 for 9 on the season. He's been so good. Next week, he goes 2 for 4. And then a few weeks later, I wrote about Drake London. And then the next game, he fractures his ankle. He's out for the season against Arizona. So shout out to Kalen Bullock for being the one guy I wrote about that was actually good and performing all season. So I appreciate him saving me some dignity, I guess you could say. Also, I want to address the part about you thinking USC was definitely going to win this game. I was one of the few. I was saying, look, if they're going to make a bowl game, they're going to have to win this game. They might not win it. Cal's not that bad. Okay, I still don't think Cal is all that great. Maybe they are that bad, but USC is just that bad or worse. But anyway, I was even saying this week that Cal was going to win this game, so not a flex or anything like that. But I kind of saw it coming. By the way, one thing I was thinking about after that game was it was good that they didn't take the forfeit for the purpose of reaching a bowl game. Like, whether or not they should have played the game was different. Maybe they should have just said, like, it's not happening at all. I don't think that's how it works. But, like, if they had taken the forfeit in the hopes of making a bowl game and then still only gone 5-7, that would have been really embarrassing. So Dante Williams was talking about how taking the automatic win isn't the best way to reach a bowl game. And yeah, it wouldn't have even been a way to reach a bowl game, so I guess it's good that they played that game. Although, nobody cared about it. As you can see in the title here, it was the weekender that no one watched. But anyway, the game itself, some of those costly mistakes, I was expecting some absolute madness, because what else could you get in a game that means literally nothing? 2, 4, and 7 teams. Championship Saturday, 8 p.m., Pac-12 after dark. Nobody's playing in a bowl game. Like, there was going to be something stupid that happened. And the fumble from Miller Moss, where the guy like stood over him and then was flagged, and then nobody realized that the ball was still in play, and then the guy picks it up, bobbles it again, and then pounces on it. So not only do they fumble, but they also give Cal like 20 yards of field positioning in the process. That wasn't great. And then the fumble on the snap on 4th and 2 from the 3 in the red zone was not great. The scoop and score was not great. There were a lot of things that weren't great. The fact that Cal missed a 26-yarder that clanked off the upright, only for them to be offsides, which didn't even impact the play. It was just, look, the game was emblematic of the entire season, in that even when things seemed to be going right, they didn't go right. They went very wrong, and a lot of that was self-inflicted, and a lot of it was random. There was just a lot of things that did not go the Trojans' way. Obviously, I think the most important thing from that game is Jackson Dart healthy? It seems like he is. It seems like he just got a little bit dinged up there, but there was no reason to bring him back into that game. And then Miller Moss, he's supposed to be a pro-style quarterback. Like, Jackson Dart is the dual threat on this team. Miller Moss can run. Maybe not as well as Dart, but he had the spin move in there. He's a lot more mobile than I thought. He was making throws on the run. He looked impressive. There was obviously, look, the fumble wasn't great, of course. Like, who cares? What you're looking for in these games is you're looking for the raw talent and the tools and the skills and the speed and the arm. And he showed that. I thought it was impressive from him.
Yeah, honestly, I thought, I don't know what I expected, but he was better than my expectations. I think the fumble definitely wasn't his fault, and he didn't really make any poor decisions with the ball. I know we kind of saw that with Dart in that Washington State game when he was thrown in, and Miller Moss, he played pretty well. I mean, he didn't make really any mistakes, like I said, and he's more of a dual threat than I thought. He was actually really running around, extending plays. And the funniest part for me was how the announcers, I was not at the game, they were talking about how he has such a baby face and how he doesn't look like he's 18. And I thought that was pretty funny. Just a random thing to bring up. But yeah, he played pretty well. And I think he mentioned after the game too that he wants to get a fair shot from Lincoln Riley, and he wants to get into quarterback competition with Jackson Dart. So we'll have to see how that goes. But he's just another talented quarterback that USC has.
I thought that was an interesting answer to that question, because he said that he was meeting with Coach Riley tomorrow, just to meet and talk about things for the first time, one-on-one. And somebody asked him, "What are you looking to hear in that meeting?" By the way, whoever asked him that question, pretty damn good question. I don't know who that could have possibly been, but it was a really anyway.
It was you,
yeah. Anyway, what he said was, he was like, "All I'm looking for is a fair shot." And, okay, prefacing this in bold, underline, italicized font, I am not putting words into his mouth. However, what I took from that quote was that it's possible maybe he feels like he doesn't get a fair shot this year, and I think that wouldn't be a totally unfounded perspective. There were times during this year when it was late in the game, USC was getting blown out naturally, and it was like, why is Miller Moss not getting some reps in this game? Utah, they lost by 16 points. That game was never really close all that late. He didn't find his way into that game. Arizona State, well, I guess Dart was back by then. UCLA, when Keaton was out, they lost by 29 points. Dart played the entire game. Even if it's only for the purpose of getting Dart off his feet and keeping him healthy, which people have said it didn't look like he was entirely healthy at the end of the season. Maybe it would have been good to at least get the guy who's a 4-star prospect and like one of the top 10 quarterbacks in his class a few reps. It was good that it came in the Cal game. Obviously, the fact that it came as a byproduct of Dart getting hurt was not great. Again, he very well could have just been saying, I want a fair shot in general, because that's what everybody wants, and that's totally reasonable. My take is that he didn't really get a fair shake this year, and I don't think it would be wrong for him to think that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we talked about it many times. The fact that some of these games are really out of hand, and you're still risking the health of Dart, who I also thought was not 100%. And why not throw Miller Mouse in? Let him get some reps. Just see what he can do. And I think with the way that he's saying a fair shot, I think because he knows that this year it's probably, let's say it's Jackson Dart and him, and then Jackson Dart is presumably the starter. Then you have Malachi Nelson that comes in, and now there's more competition. And let's say Jackson Dart is still around back then. That's two quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley might favor ahead of him. So he's just really probably thinking that this might be his opportunity to get some chances and get some reps in. And I think that's really what any player would want. But yeah, I mean, it was really weird not subbing him in when you're down by 20 or down by however, and the game's basically out of hand, and Jackson Dart is still in the center. But, I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
One of my other takeaways from this game was Corey Foreman had a nice sack. It would be nice if he played more because he's the number 12 recruit all time. What a concept. Put in a guy who's really good at football and give him more snaps, because he's supposed to be a guy who could compete for like the number 1 draft spot and draft pick in 2023. And he barely played this season, and he was healthy pretty much all year. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw something about that today, and he might be more favorable for the next coaching staff. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it was really weird. I think some of it might have been a mix of, him being injured. I think he might have talked about him trying to gain weight, and there might have been a mix of that. But I mean, I don't see why you don't play him. I know Drake Jackson also was in the past couple of games. It might have been an injury, but he was saying he's not getting used, and I mean, that's a different story. But Corey Foreman, yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of players that were misused. Him, Taj Washington, not to get on a rant, but just I'm not sure what was going on with the Taj Washington usage, putting him toward the sideline, going deep shots, asking him to mouse defenders. I don't know. I'll stop there.
Michael Jackson III also looked really good, as did Kyle Ford. Sorry, I dropped my phone onto my keyboard. I said Kyle Ford looks pretty good. I don't know if that came through. But anyway, yeah, those are my takeaways from that game, the game that didn't really matter. Let's move on. Let's look at the season as a whole. USC went 4-8. It was their worst record since 1991. Count it, that's 30 years, 3 decades if I'm doing my math right. Anthony, where do they go from here? They're going to have a lot of guys leaving, obviously, in terms of players, seniors, graduates, all that kind of stuff, and then coaches too. I think there's a new head coach, not sure. How do they move on from this terrible season? And what are who are some of the guys you'll be missing? Let's start there.
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I mean, obviously the one that comes is Vavae Malepeai, just a solid veteran. Such a great person, great player. I'm happy he was able to, he had a tough season. I'm happy he was able to finish strong. I think he had over 100 yards rushing. He's just a consummate pro. I mean, a perfect, locker room guy to have. And I'm honestly going to miss him just because also he's not also is he a great player, but he's also just a great, person to talk to and get quotes from. And same with Brent Nealon. I'm not sure what did you want to say?
Quick thing about Vi. He handled things so well this year. I don't know. Must be an unimaginably difficult spot to be there for however many years he was there, 4 or 5, felt like 10. And just be like not playing, not getting the snaps that you normally do because Ingram was playing super well. Read Anthony's feature about Keonta Ingram, by the way. And that's just a tough spot to be in, this being your last year, especially when the stakes aren't like super high and you just want to be in there playing the game, by the point of the season where they're not going to a bowl game, things like that. He got more reps at the end of the year, and like you said, he definitely ended the season strong. But I mean, the guy was emotional about it each of the last two post game press, conference things, and I don't blame him for it, because he's been a leader of this team as a captain, obviously a guy that guys look up to, and it's definitely going to be weird not having him here. And I think, speaking on what you said, class act, he handled everything so well. He's definitely going to be missed. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, such a selfless player too. Always puts the team first. But yeah, I'll move on from him. I'll also go to Brent Nealon. I'm not sure if Brent Nealon is. He actually, I think, has a year of eligibility left.
Yeah.
So he might still be back, but just in case he's not, he was another great staple of this team. I think he was around for about 4 or 5 years as well, and he was just always a great quote, great interview, and just a really solid center. I mean, there were really rarely any issues with him. I mean, maybe yesterday, but he's just also a really great player, and I think he'll be missed on that O-line. Obviously, we have to see how that progresses. Another one, you mentioned him, Keonta Ingram. So Keonta Ingram, he's able to come back. He still has 1 more year left. He said he's going to be talking to Lincoln Riley soon and try to see what his role would be in that offense, and then he would make that decision in a week or so, or a week or 2 weeks. And he was just, people don't know, he was very close to the 1,000-yard season, and he missed a couple of games. And the first few games he was doing that 1A 1B system. He could have easily surpassed 1,000. He probably could have been around 1,100 or 1,200. So I'm going to miss him definitely if he doesn't return. Another great, strong runner, physical, tough to bring down in open field. And he was a spark. I mean, when Drake London left, he was a spark to that offense. So he'll definitely be missed.
I'm going to talk about Brent Nealon for a second, because it's a nice segue into another point that I want to bring up from a coaching side. Brent Nealon, I think, talked to the media after every single game, which is cool because he's a center. Like, it would be one thing if he's a quarterback, but like, Brent Nealon's almost never going to be the main focus of a post-game recap, and he talked to us like every single time, or talked to us or whoever was there every single time. And especially in the last game when, offensive linemen don't really get noticed, even if they're super good, until like something goes wrong, even if it's not entirely their fault. Even if it wasn't entirely his fault, something went wrong on that 4th and 2 there where the snap was kind of botched, and like he didn't, guys could hide from the media after that and like just run away. He didn't do that at all. I don't even look, they didn't lose that game because of that play, and there was some like miscommunication thing there, but like, again, it's not like it was his fault entirely, of course, but yeah, super cool guy, class act. He also got emotional talking about possibly saying goodbye to Clay Mcguire in case he were to leave, which happened today. He's going to be going to Washington State in the same role, offensive line coach. Mcguire was a guy who the offensive linemen really liked. Like, they all loved playing for him. The offensive line this year was supposed to be like the biggest weakness. I thought it was going to be the biggest weakness. I mean, when we thought that this team was going to be legit, I was at the point where like, they're going to be solid, but they can't be great, because the offensive line is just going to hold them back. And the offensive line wasn't dominant by any means this year, but it definitely was not the team's problem. I don't even know if it was one of the team's top 5 problems. It was actually pretty solid. They actually had a run game this year, which was a concept. So I thought he did a really good job with that group. People have been saying the recruiting side of things has been less perfect, and I think they're looking at a new likely candidate in Bill Bedenbaugh, who's seen as one of the best offensive line coaches. He's coming from Oklahoma, obviously with Lincoln Riley too. They got an O-line coach today, just a couple of minutes ago. Let me find his name. That's going to be coming to USC, but he might not be the O-line coach. His name is, I can't find it right now, but anyway, he's probably not going to be the O-line coach. It sounds like he's going to be the tight end coach or something like that. His name is Zach Hansen. He's coming from Tulsa. So, I mean, even if he's not the O-line coach, that could be another guy to help out that group too. But yeah, Brent Nealon, super cool guy. Clay Mcguire is going to be, a tough guy to replace on that staff, because I think a big thing about how good offensive lines are is like cohesion and how well they play together as a group, because it's a very like you're kind of in the trenches, like literally together, so to speak. And it sounded like they liked being there under him. So yeah, that'll be a loss that they'll have to overcome. And then all the other guys too. They've just been like Ingram. I hope he's back. I totally understand if he's not back because he has a bright future ahead of him. I guess I should say the selfish part of me hopes that he's back just so we can watch him play for one more year. But like if he's like, I'm going to the league, like go to the league, that'd be awesome. I think he can definitely do it too. So yeah, it's going to be different for sure. I would expect the coaching staff to be entirely overhauled. As far as Dante Williams go, I'm really curious to see what happens with him. I would right now I'd say like I'm 40% confident he'll be back. I feel like it's probably more likely than not that he's somewhere else just because I don't know. It'd be hard to be like, okay, you were interim head coach at USC for 1 year. Now you're going to go back to being cornerbacks coach. And like, we're going to have you around to recruit. But Lincoln Riley's already really good at that. Maybe you want the help on the defensive side of things, but it doesn't seem like that'd be something that he'd be thrilled about. And I don't blame him for that either. I think he could get, a higher standing role somewhere else or be a head coach at some small school elsewhere too. So I don't know. Maybe he wants to stay here and like fully take back the West, but if he goes somewhere else, I wouldn't be shocked either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's difficult. He was interim head coach, and then they go like, "Oh yeah, now we want to just take you back and demote you to your own role, or your old role." And that was one thing I really was talking about when Lincoln Riley was hired. I mean, now you kind of don't really necessarily need Dante Williams as a recruiter because you have such a power recruiter in Lincoln Riley and some of the people he's brought from his staff. So it'll be interesting to see where Dante Williams goes, if he's maybe becomes a defensive coordinator somewhere else, if he, goes back to cornerbacks coach at another spot. But, I think, bringing him back is not a bad idea also because he has that connection with the players that were here this season. He kind of might make that transition easier. But, I don't know. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's not back.
I think the other thing about Dante too is he feels like he's being somewhat underappreciated. And maybe I'm speaking from the perspective of like the average fan because the average fan doesn't really do that. But like when he came in after week 2, they were 1-1. They had 10 games to play. There was this acknowledgement that like, yeah, he might go 9-1 over these next 10 games, but he also might go 4-6. It ended up being 3-7. But like people acknowledged at first that he was in a pretty much unwinnable situation because that's an impossible spot to be thrown into. And then as it got further and further from that moment, it almost became like he was the bad guy for some reason. Like he would say things like, we need to be more accountable. We're going to fix it. Whatever he would say. And there would be the Twitter comment. And sure, they came from like Joe Schmo, first name bunch of numbers that nobody really like wants to hear from. But it was like, oh, he's being spoon-fed lines from Clay Helton. This is just Helton part 2. He's no like, so what? So what if he's being spoon-fed lines from Clay Helton, or if he sounds pretty similar to him? Like he was put in this role to be a transition to the next guy. Basically, the point his job was to stabilize the ship, and I thought he did a pretty good job of that. Sure, maybe he wasn't the perfect head coach. The 2 quarterback system thing was kind of confusing. And there were a lot of like wishy-washy, is he hurt? Is he not? Like, we're not being very transparent. Why are we using this guy the way that we are? But overall, he did a pretty good job. And I think he's meant a lot to this school in terms of just everything that he's done since he's been here. He's handled it with a lot of class and a lot of grace. And he obviously like won't be as front and prominent as he was this year moving forward. But I think he deserves a little bit of acknowledgement or appreciation based on the way that he stepped into a role where things were in flames and he just, brought some sense of normalcy back, even if it wasn't normalcy in terms of winning football games. But like, you know what I'm saying? He just kind of stabilized things and did his job transitioning to the new guy. And I think he should be appreciated for that.
Yeah, I mean, that was an unwinnable situation that he was thrown in. I mean, there's no perfect way of dealing with that. And I agree, he did his best job. I mean, he was able to look. People forget this is the first time he's ever been in that type of position, interim head coach, especially at a school like USC, where expectations are really high and the pressure is really high. he did a perfect job, or not a perfect job, but he did a really good job, better than probably many would have expected. And I think if you got to acknowledge that if you're the athletic department, you've got to make sure that you can find a way to make him stay, keep him in a role that will satisfy what he wants to do. Now, if he wants to go back and be cornerback coach, it's a different conversation. But you just have to assume. I know it's not good to assume, but you have to assume that he would want a higher role than previous because of what he went through this semester, or excuse me, this season.
Yeah, and then once again, I think the people who actually watched the game and watched the games, plural, and understood the nuances of what was going on in the situation without just looking at the scoreboard, I think they appreciate him. And I think they know that he did a pretty good job this year because the role that he was thrown into was literally impossible. Like if you put Lincoln Riley in as head coach in week 3, I don't know if they do much better than they did this year. Like maybe they win one extra game because he's better offensively with X's and O's or whatever. But like from a pure head coaching perspective, I don't know if there was a better job that anybody could have done. Nobody was going to lead that team to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, and there was it's not like they were, blown out in all the games. There were some games where I thought they had a chance of winning. I thought Notre Dame was a winnable game for them. I thought Arizona State could have gone the other way. That's 2 extra wins. So I don't know. I mean,
And then
BYU as well. Yeah, that's another one. So that's 3 games where if some little things are different, you might get a win. So I think it's unfair to put all the blame on him and say it was Dante's fault. Look what he did. He couldn't get this, couldn't do that. That's just not fair.
That's right. 4-8 on the field, 7-5 in my heart. Anthony, is there anything else we should talk about from this year and how they move forward into 2022 before we move on to a fun topic, we'll say?
I'm just happy it's over. If I can be honest, it was, if you want to know, like, if you want to get a Spark Notes version of this team, just watch the Cal game. I didn't even think about that. So many things went wrong. Just the missed field goals, the weird penalties, the quarterback getting hurt. I don't know. I'm just happy it's over.
We would be remiss too if we didn't talk about the week that USC just had in terms of recruiting. There's not much analysis to be done here. Lincoln Riley, guys want to play for Lincoln Riley, but 5-star Malachi Nelson on Tuesday, 5-star Rayleigh Brown on Thursday, Mekhi Lemon on Friday, another 5-star, all Oklahoma flips. I don't have much to add other than it's a sign of things to come. The program is on the up, and yeah, what a week.
Yeah, I mean, geez, yeah. In a matter of what is that, 3-4 days, you get 3 5-stars. And most of them, actually all of them are California kids, so that's a good start. And one of them, Malachi Nelson, being the number 2 ranked player in the class 2023. So that's a good start for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, all Los Angeles kids too. And another thing is, one of the main reasons why this team has been bad for the last few years is that Oregon is stealing all of the recruits from LA. Mario Cristobal is not going to be doing that anymore because he's now going to Miami.
Reportedly.
Point is, reportedly,
yeah.
That's great journalism there. Point is, this conference is winnable. I don't see anybody from the North that's like a threat really to USC and Utah. I think it's going to be between those 2 schools for the next few years. I don't know. Should we drop? Let's just entertain this. Should we drop really quickly, like way too early 2022 season record predictions? I'm gonna go. I think they go 8-4. I don't probably think they win the Pac-12 South. Maybe they go 9-3. Nah, 8-4. 8-4.
I'm feeling 8-4 as well. I mean, I definitely don't think it'll be like a 10-win, 9-win season. I think 8-4 is probably the most realistic. Also have to see who they're playing and what the schedule's like, but 8-4 sounds about right.
Cool. 2-10 confirmed. Speaking of programs that are on the rise, like that segue, Anthony, let's talk about a team that has not actually won double the games in their season so far that USC football won in their season despite playing 4 fewer games. Of course, I'm talking about the USC men's basketball team. They just pulled out a gritty 63-63. That can't happen. 63-61 win in Pullman on Saturday. If you were gearing up for the if you were gearing up for the USC football game by watching the USC basketball game rather than the SEC championship or Cincinnati Houston in whatever conference they're in that I can't think of. By the way, they got the college football playoff rankings right. Just going to throw that out there. We're not going to talk about that. We're going way too long. USC basketball, a gritty win. Their first real grinded out, tough. They've had some tight battles, ones where they've had to pull away late and they've gotten it done. But this one was the first, like they were trailing in the final minute. It was Chavez Goodwin with the and one with 16 seconds left. He hit the free throw. He's like 30% free throws on the year. He hits the free throw. Max Agbonk Polo gets the block with about like less than 5 seconds left. This team's got the magic, Anthony.
Yeah, they're really good. They're for real. I mean, I really honestly didn't expect this. But I mean, it seems like just things have transitioned so well. Obviously, losing Evan Mobley is a big, big loss. You can't really, you can't replace him that easily, especially, just at his defensive powers. And also, Tajiri is another big loss. Losing him, that's very underrated. But it seems like they've transitioned just seamlessly. I mean, Boogie Ellis has been outstanding. I think he's averaging about 16 points per game, the highest on the team. And I think just their veteran presence of players like Chavez Goodwin that have been around, Drew Peterson, obviously Isaiah Mobley, Max Agbonk Polo, Ethan Anderson, to name a few. I mean, they've been around in that system, all three, Max Agbonk Polo, Ethan Anderson, Isaiah Mobley, obviously since their freshman year. So they kind of know this, the defensive schemes and what Andy Enfield wants. So I think that's really been showing their veteran presence and their experience. And I think this team is once again just outstanding on defense. Washington State, who's averaging 76.6 points per game. They had 61 yesterday at home. And USC was dominant on that side and has been dominant throughout the season. And they could make, I know it's early, but they could make a run in the Pac-12. I mean, they're first right now, obviously, but they're the only team that's played 2 games in the Pac-12, so we got to wait a little bit. And they've got a really key matchup at home, January 2nd against Arizona, who was ranked 11 at the time. So, look, they're for real. And they've got a really good squad. They're also very deep as well, and they're big. Again, they're huge. And Andy Enfield, I think, said this might be his deepest team. He said that last year, but I guess it's the same thing this year. He said it's the deepest team we've had. And, I mean, it really shows. I mean, they've got a lot of great players, and it's an exciting time for USC basketball. So if you want to just I always say it's like a therapy session. If USC football's bad, just go watch some basketball, and you'll calm down.
After watching Dash, of course, because we're like the primary therapy session. They're the secondary. I'm a terrible host for not reminding all of our lovely viewers to drop your thoughts in the chat about basketball, USC basketball, anything we've said this entire show. We have plenty of time here. Anthony, it's study week. We don't have finals or class tomorrow. I don't have much work to do. We have time to answer your questions or just share your thoughts if you would like to do so. Basketball. USC is 8-0 right now. Anthony, I'm going to read you the next 5 or 6 games, okay? Tuesday, December 7th, Eastern Kentucky at home. Win. Sunday, the 12th, Long Beach State at home. Win. Wednesday, the 15th, UC Irvine at home. Probably win. Saturday, the 18th, Georgia Tech at home. Win. Day of the week, it stopped showing, but the 21st, Oklahoma State on the road. Probably a win. If they win those games, they're 13-0. Like, last year's team went, 24-9? And that was pretty damn good, and it was. This team might be 13-0 by the time they play Arizona State. They could win that. Arizona State's not even ranked right now. Yeah. And then they play Arizona, who's obviously good. That's going to be a challenging one, but that's at home. Maybe they win that one. I mean, we could look up pretty soon, and they could be 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15-0. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I'm trying to pull up what was their start last year.
They were. So
they started 8. So through 10 games, they were. Through 8 games. So they were 6-2, but they also had the 2 teams they lost to, Colorado and UConn. But then, they started streaking toward the end of the season, and then, I mean, they could very realistically be 13-0. I think that Georgia Tech, Oklahoma State matchups will be good to see where they are. I know that San Diego State win was huge for them, especially on the road or a neutral site in a tournament championship game. And San Diego State had their visiting fans travel. Well, that was a big win. I think once I saw that, I thought they might actually have a good team. But yeah, 13-0. I mean, and the Pac-12 schedule, it's not very difficult to start. I think you go after Arizona, you go on the road against Cal and then Stanford. Then you come home against 2 Oregon teams. And Oregon this year is not as strong as previous years. Currently 5-4. So, I mean, the Pac-12 is really wide open. I mean, even for basketball. I know we mentioned football, but the Pac-12 really is. I mean, it's UCLA obviously is going to be right now is the most talented team, and they're going to be up there. And then it's Arizona, and then it's USC, and I think that's a reasonable place to be in, especially at this time of the season. And we have to see. Obviously, it's early, so you gotta keep it up, but it's positive. It's looking good for them.
Yeah, and the Washington State game was a really big experience for that team because road. I was surprised before the game started. I didn't realize Washington State was as good as they are.
Oh yeah,
they're actually favored to win that game. Yeah, SC was favored to lose that game, and it was a tough environment. The crowd was pretty rowdy the entire time. Like I said, they were trailing late. They were trailing by like multiple scores with like only a couple of minutes left, and they rallied back to win that one. So like that's the kind of thing that's going to help you in these tough road games. Like, well, if Oklahoma State or Georgia Tech, well, that's at home, but you get what I'm saying. Those sorts of environments where you're not just winning by 100 points against whoever it might be. It's going to be useful for this team, and I think it's going to help them out when they're playing some of those tougher Pac-12 teams.
And actually, I just double checked. The Georgia Tech game is actually on the road too. I think it's part of that tournament where they're playing Oklahoma State. But I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, these are good. These are good early season matchups to have. I think obviously last year COVID kind of put that away. There was just one matchup that was on the road. No, a couple that were in a tournament. So I mean, it's good to have those early season ones and test the team. I know that right now the Pac-12 is coming up next month. So I mean, they're in a good place. And another thing we didn't talk about, the free throw shooting. They still suck at shooting free throws, which really doesn't add up. Currently shooting 57% from the free throw line. Last season they were terrible. This season they're still bad. Who knows? I mean, last year everyone talked about, it's going to bite them, in close games. It never really did. We'll have to see this year.
Yeah, it never really did because they won every tournament game until they played Gonzaga and just got absolutely smashed. But, some things never change. I think, look, I'm glad that they can't shoot free throws because if they shot free throws well, it wouldn't feel like a real USC basketball team. And this team's been one of the more fun programs since I stepped foot on campus. And yeah, I want to see that continue. I don't actually want to see that continue, but, it adds a little excitement.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know what it is because Andy Enfield, we've talked about this many times. He has one of the highest free throw percentages of all time, and the Trojans somehow, 57%. That's pretty bad. To average from how many people are on the team and who plays, it's embarrassing. It's definitely the lowest in the Pac-12. Let me double check, but I mean, it hasn't hurt them yet, so we'll have to see.
That's right. USC basketball is a wagon regardless of the free throw shooting. Dash Sports TV Trojan Dash is also a wagon because we just went 10 minutes long. Anthony, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up? 11 minutes now. Look at that. We started 2 minutes late, so 39 minutes in.
Jeez, 39 minutes. If you're stuck around the whole time, what a real fan. Trojan Dash Nation. So strong. Honestly, I don't have anything else. Just make sure to watch. No football, so make sure to watch men's basketball, women's basketball. Make sure to support those sports. Both very exciting programs at the moment.
We do have the best fans over here at Trojan Dash, and we will be back to meet with those great fans sometime. Our football off-season schedule is always sort of figured out as we go along, but this is an exciting basketball team, and I'm going to want to talk about it definitely. Oh, by the way, shout out to the water polo team. A tough championship matchup today to Cal. They lost 13-12. They lost by 1. Valiant effort. That team's raw. Come up short by 1 goal in the championship game for the second straight year. That's obviously a bummer.
Yeah, shout out to them. Obviously, I know they were sporting mustaches for good luck. I should have joined. We should have joined the party. We should have done that too. We should have just shaved, just kept the mustache. Well, it's too late. But yeah, shout out water polo. Another great season. I mean, they dominate. I think this was their 17th straight NCAA tournament.
Always impressive. You can go ahead with the mustache thing. I'm going to have to decline. Although maybe on the next Trojan Dash, I'll be sporting one. Who knows? But that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back when we are back. As a reminder, make sure to follow us on all of our various social media platforms, including Instagram, Snapchat. I try to do it fast and get through it smoothly, and then I just screw up. Instagram, Twitter. Go to our website at dashsports.tv. Check us out on YouTube. Check out all of our other shows from across the Pac-12 and all the sports that we do, all the shows that we do here on the Dash Sports TV network. I'm Nathan Ackerman. He's Anthony Garib. Thank you so much for